At 0512 hours on May 19, 1944, the sonar operator aboard USS England called out contact information in a voice tight with excitement. Sonar contact, bearing 045 degrees range, 400 yards, classified submarine. Lieutenant Commander Walton Pendleton stepped to the sonar repeater and listened through the headphones himself. The rhythmic ping echo pattern was unmistakable. Submarine. Submerged, stationary or moving slowly, range closing as England approached at 15 knots. This was England's third submarine contact in 7 days. The previous 2 contacts had ended with confirmed kills. Now, 400 yards ahead in the dark waters south of the Admiralty Islands, another Japanese submarine was about to learn that USS England was the most lethal submarine hunter in the Pacific Fleet. Pendleton had perhaps 90 seconds before England passed over the submarine's position. He ordered the attack team to battle stations, verified the depth charge pattern was set for 150 feet, confirmed the Hedgehog crews were ready. England had pioneered tactics for the Hedgehog anti-submarine weapon that had proven devastatingly effective in the previous attacks. The crew had drilled, constantly refining procedures, reducing the time from contact to attack, learning to trust their equipment and their training. Now they would execute another attack, the third in a week, using techniques that were becoming standard across the Pacific Fleet, because England had demonstrated they worked. At 05:15 and 30 seconds, Pendleton gave the order, "Fire Hedgehog." 24 contact-fused projectiles arced from the forward launcher, flying ahead of the ship in a circular pattern 140 feet in diameter. The projectiles entered the water and sank rapidly toward the submarine detected by sonar. Unlike conventional depth charges that detonated at preset depths whether they hit anything or not, Hedgehog projectiles exploded only on contact with a solid object. No explosions meant a miss. Explosions meant hits. At 05:16, 3 explosions erupted underwater ahead of England, the distinctive sharp cracks of Hedgehog warheads detonating against a submarine's pressure hull. The sonar operator reported breaking up noises, compressed air escaping internal explosions. The submarine was dying. By 05:20, debris was surfacing: oilwood, fragments, personal effects, pieces of pressure hull. England had just sunk her third Japanese submarine in 7 days. Over the next 5 days, she would sink 3 more, setting a record that would never be equaled: 6 enemy submarines, destroyed by one ship in 12 days during a single patrol. It was a killing spree that would stun the Japanese Navy, vindicate American anti-submarine warfare doctrine, and demonstrate that destroyer escorts, the small, cheap warships built in massive numbers to win the Battle of the Atlantic, were the most effective submarine killers ever designed. USS England was a Buckley-class destroyer escort, hull number DE-635, built at the Bethlehem Steel Shipyard in San Francisco and commissioned on December 10, 1943. She was named after Ensign John C. England, a naval aviator killed during the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor while returning fire from a sinking battleship. The name was prophetic. A ship named for a man who died fighting the Japanese would become the most successful submarine hunter in the Pacific War. Destroyer escorts were a wartime improvisation designed to address a critical shortage of escort vessels for convoy protection. The Battle of the Atlantic required hundreds of escorts, but building fleet destroyers was slow and expensive. Destroyer escorts were smaller, simpler, and cheaper. They displaced 400 tons compared to 2,100 tons for fleet destroyers. They had diesel engines producing 6,000 horsepower compared to steam turbines producing 60,000 horsepower. Maximum speed was 24 knots compared to 35 knots for fleet destroyers. Main armament was 3 3-inch guns compared to 4 or 5 5-inch guns on fleet destroyers. But destroyer escorts had advantages in anti-submarine warfare. They were more maneuverable at low speeds, important when tracking submarines. Their diesel engines were quieter than steam turbines, making sonar detection easier. They had more space for anti-submarine weapons and longer endurance. Most importantly, they could be built in 6 months by shipyards that could not build fleet destroyers. Between 1943 and 1945, American shipyards built 563 destroyer escorts, far more than could have been built if the Navy had insisted on fleet destroyers. England's anti-submarine armament was state-of-the-art for 1943. Her primary weapon was the Hedgehog, a British-designed forward-throwing anti-submarine mortar. The Hedgehog fired 24 projectiles in a circular pattern ahead of the attacking ship. Each projectile weighed 65 pounds with a 35-pound Torpex warhead. The projectiles flew approximately 250 yards and entered the water in a 140-foot diameter circle. They sank at 23 feet per second and exploded only on contact with a solid object. The Hedgehog was revolutionary because it allowed attacking while maintaining sonar contact. Conventional depth charges were dropped from the stern, which meant the attacking ship had to pass over the submarine's estimated position before releasing weapons. This caused the attacking ship to lose sonar contact during the critical final moments of the attack when the submarine was maneuvering to evade. The submarine's evasive maneuvers during those blind moments often meant depth charges exploded harmlessly away from the target. The Hedgehog eliminated this problem. The attacking ship fired while approaching the submarine, maintaining sonar contact throughout the attack. If the submarine maneuvered after the Hedgehog was fired, the sonar operator could detect the maneuver and the attacking ship could adjust course for follow-up attacks. The contact-fused warheads meant that explosions confirmed kills. No explosions meant adjusting tactics and attacking again. England also carried conventional depth charges, 8K gun projectors that could throw depth charges to either side, and 2 stern racks for rolling depth charges off the back. The combination of Hedgehog and depth charges provided multiple attack options depending on tactical circumstances. But England's crew would perfect Hedgehog attacks to the point where conventional depth charges were rarely needed. The crew consisted of 15 officers and 198 enlisted men. Lieutenant Commander Walton Pendleton commanded. He was 31 years old, a Naval Academy graduate who had served in destroyers before taking command of England in December 1943. Pendleton was methodical and thorough, drilling his crew, constantly developing procedures that maximized their equipment's effectiveness. He was not flashy or charismatic, but he was competent, and competence mattered more than personality when hunting submarines. The key to England's success was not superior technology or better weapons. Every destroyer escort in the Pacific Fleet had similar equipment. What made England extraordinary was crew training, tactical refinement, and the leadership that created an environment where men could perform perfectly under pressure. Pendleton insisted on endless drills, sonar tracking drills, Hedgehog firing drills, damage control drills, communications drills. The crew complained about the constant training, but when contact came, they executed flawlessly because they had done it hundreds of times in practice. England's first combat patrol began in March 1944, operating from Purvis Bay in the Solomon Islands. She conducted convoy escort and anti-submarine patrols around the Solomons and New Guinea, developing experience but not encountering enemy submarines. By May 1944, she had been operating for 5 months without significant action. The crew was trained and ready, but they had not yet proven themselves in combat. In early May 1944, American intelligence detected a pattern of Japanese submarine movements south of the Admiralty Islands. Multiple submarines were transiting through this area, likely positioning for operations against American supply lines to newly captured bases. Admiral William Halsey, commanding the South Pacific area, organized hunter-killer groups specifically to intercept these submarines. England was assigned to Escort Division 39 along with destroyer escorts, USS George and USS Rabbi, forming a three-ship anti-submarine team. The division's orders were clear patrol the area south of the Admiralties, locate Japanese submarines transiting through the region, and destroy them. Intelligence provided general areas where submarines had been detected, but not precise locations. The destroyer escorts would have to search large ocean areas using sonar and visual observation, hoping to detect submarines before the submarines detected them. On May 19, 1944, Escort Division 39 was patrolling approximately 220 miles south of Kavieng when England's sonar detected a submarine contact at 05:04 hours. This was I-16, a Japanese Type J-3 submarine that had been transiting from Truk to Rabaul. I-16 was running submerged during daylight hours to avoid air attack, unaware that American destroyer escorts were patrolling this area. Pendleton maneuvered England into attack position and fired a 24-projectile hedgehog pattern at Cu-516. 3 projectiles hit I-16, the explosions tearing holes in the pressure hull. The submarine flooded rapidly and sank in 3,000 feet of water. There were no survivors. England's crew celebrated their first confirmed kill, but there was no time for extended celebration. Intelligence indicated more submarines were in the area. The hunt continued. On May 22, 3 days after sinking, I-16 England detected another submarine contact at 3:35 hours. This was RO-1006, a smaller coastal submarine that had been ordered to scout American positions. Pendleton maneuvered for attack and fired the Hedgehog at 0:37. 4 projectiles hit RO-106, breaking the submarine's back and causing immediate catastrophic flooding. The submarine sank in minutes, England's second confirmed kill in 4 days. On May 23rd, the very next day, England detected a third submarine at 2313 hours. This was RO-104. Another coastal submarine operating in the same area. Night attacks were more difficult because visual confirmation of debris was impossible in darkness. But sonar provided excellent tracking, and the Hedgehog attack proceeded as drilled. Pendleton fired at 23:15. 5 projectiles hit RO-104. The submarine broke apart and sank. England had sunk 3 submarines in 5 days, an unprecedented achievement. The pattern was established. England's sonar operators were detecting submarines that other ships were missing. The crew's attack procedures were so refined that time from contact to attack was consistently under 5 minutes. The Hedgehog was proving devastatingly effective, with hit rates far exceeding peacetime predictions. And Pendleton's leadership was creating an environment where every crew member performed at peak capability because they trusted their equipment, their training, and each other. But the most remarkable phase of England's patrol was about to begin. American intelligence had broken Japanese naval codes and knew that Japanese submarine commanders were being ordered to reposition to new patrol areas. The intelligence provided general routes, but not exact positions or timing. Escort Division 39 was ordered to position along the most likely transit routes and wait for submarines to come to them. On May 26, England was patrolling approximately 180 miles northeast of the Admiralty Islands when sonar detected a submarine at 0:17 hours. This was RO-116 transiting submerged toward a new patrol area. Pendleton attacked at 0:19, firing the Hedgehog. 6 projectiles hit RO-116. The submarine was destroyed so completely that almost no debris surfaced. England's 4th kill in 8 days. On May 30th, 4 days later, England detected another submarine at 0:07:05 hours. This was RO-108, also transiting through the area, following orders from Japanese command. Pendleton attacked at 0:07. 7 projectiles hit RO-108. The submarine imploded and sank. England's 5th kill in 12 days. The crew was approaching exhaustion from constant alerts and action stations, but morale was extraordinarily high. They were writing history, achieving something no ship had accomplished before. On May 31st, the next day, England detected her sixth submarine at 07:29 hours. This was RO-105, the last of the submarine group that Japanese command had ordered to reposition. Pendleton attacked at 0731. Multiple Hedgehog projectiles hit RO-105. The submarine broke apart and sank. England had just sunk 6 enemy submarines in 12 days, a record that would stand for the rest of World War II and remains unequaled to this day. The achievement stunned the Navy. No ship in history had sunk 6 submarines in 12 days. Most ships never sank one submarine in their entire careers. England had become the most lethal submarine hunter in the Pacific Fleet. Through a combination of excellent sonar operations, refined attack procedures, superior crew training, and aggressive but calculated leadership. Admiral Halsey sent a message to England. There'll always be an England in the United States Navy. The statement was both recognition and prophecy. England's achievement demonstrated that American anti-submarine warfare doctrine worked, that destroyer escorts were effective submarine killers, that Japanese submarines could be hunted and destroyed systematically using proper tactics and equipment. But England's patrol was not finished. On June 1st, she detected a 7th submarine contact. However, this attack was assigned to another ship in the escort division. Admiral Halsey, recognizing that England's crew was exhausted and that other ships needed combat experience, ordered USS George to conduct the attack. George's Hedgehog attack failed, and the submarine escaped. The next day, England was reassigned to conduct the attack. She found the submarine attacked, but this time the Hedgehog failed to achieve hits. The submarine escaped. On June 4th, England was operating with the escort carrier group when she was attacked by a Japanese aircraft. A bomb hit England's superstructure, causing significant damage and casualties. 9 men were killed, 26 wounded. England's patrol ended. She returned to Manus for repairs and later to the United States for complete refit. The most successful anti-submarine patrol in history was over. England's 6 confirmed kills in 12 days represented approximately 2% of all Japanese submarines sunk during the entire war. One ship in less than 2 weeks had inflicted measurable damage on the Japanese submarine force. The psychological impact was even greater. Japanese submarine commanders became aware that an American ship was systematically destroying submarines in areas where Japanese boats had previously operated with relative impunity. The threat forced changes in Japanese submarine operations, routing, and tactics. The technical lessons from England's patrol influenced American anti-submarine warfare for the rest of the war. Her tactics were analyzed, documented, and distributed fleet-wide. Hedgehog attack procedures were standardized. Based on England's methods, sonar search patterns were refined using England's experience. Training programs incorporated England's techniques. Ships that adopted England's methods achieved significantly higher success rates against submarines. The human dimension was equally important. England's crew demonstrated that destroyer escorts manned by reservists with limited pre-war experience could achieve excellence through training and leadership. These were not career Navy men. They were civilians who had volunteered or been drafted, trained for a few months, and sent to sea on a ship type that did not exist 3 years earlier. Yet they performed as well as or better than the most experienced fleet destroyer crews, proving that American training systems worked and that motivated personnel with good equipment could achieve extraordinary results. Lieutenant Commander Pendleton was awarded the Navy Cross for his leadership during the patrol. The citation credited his aggressive tactics, excellent ship handling, and superior crew training. Pendleton's modest response was that his crew had done the work. He had simply given orders. But leadership matters, and Pendleton's leadership created the environment where excellence was possible. England continued serving through the end of the war. After repairs, she returned to the Pacific and participated in operations around the Philippines and Okinawa. She conducted convoy escort, anti-submarine patrols, and shore bombardment missions. But she never achieved another submarine kill. Her moment of glory had been May 1944, when for 12 days she was the most dangerous ship in the Pacific for Japanese submarines. After the war, England was decommissioned in 1945 and placed in reserve. She was struck from the Naval Register in 1946 and sold for scrap in 1947. Her service life lasted less than 4 years, but her legacy endured. The tactics she pioneered, the record she set, and the demonstration that destroyer escorts could be devastatingly effective. Submarine hunters influenced American naval doctrine for decades. The name USS England was carried by 3 subsequent ships. A Charles F. Adams-class guided missile destroyer commissioned in 1963, a Leahy-class guided missile cruiser commissioned in 1963. Confusingly, both ships carried the name simultaneously for several years, and an Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer commissioned in 2004. Each ship inherited the legacy of the original England's submarine hunting prowess, maintaining the tradition that in England would always be a hunter of submarines. The 6 Japanese submarines sunk by England from 16 RO-106, RO-104, RO-116, RO-108, and RO-105 went down with all hands. Approximately 330 Japanese submariners died in England's attacks. None survived to be rescued. The Hedgehog was a brutal weapon. When projectiles hit a submerged submarine, the results were catastrophic. Pressure hulls ruptured, compartments flooded instantly. Men drowned or were killed by the explosions before they could react. Submarine warfare was unforgiving. Crews lived in steel tubes underwater, knowing that any serious damage meant death. England's attacks gave the Japanese submariners no chance. The effectiveness of the Hedgehog was demonstrated conclusively by England's patrol. Pre-war predictions suggested hit rates of perhaps 5–10% per attack. England achieved hit rates exceeding 80% with 6 kills in 7 attacks. The difference was crew training, tactical refinement, and aggressive prosecution of contacts. Pendleton's insistence on constant drilling meant his crew executed attacks flawlessly under pressure. His tactical doctrine of immediate attack upon contact gave submarines no time to evade. His trust in his equipment meant England pressed attacks even when conventional wisdom suggested breaking off and trying different approaches. The Japanese submarine force never recovered from losses inflicted in mid-1944 when England and other American anti-submarine forces systematically hunted Japanese boats. By 1945, Japanese submarines were largely ineffective, unable to conduct sustained operations against American shipping, forced to conduct suicide missions rather than conventional patrols. This transformation from potent threat in 1941–1942 to marginal force in 1945 resulted from cumulative losses inflicted by ships like England and tactics refined through combat experience. Modern anti-submarine warfare traces its lineage directly to World War II destroyer escort operations. The principles established by ships like England, persistent search, immediate attack upon contact, forward-throwing weapons that maintain sonar contact, trust in technology and training remain fundamental to submarine hunting. Modern anti-submarine ships use helicopters' variable depth sonar and guided torpedoes instead of Hedgehogs, but the tactical principles are England's principles refined and adapted to new technology. USS England's record of 6 submarines sunk in 12 days stands alone in naval history. No ship before or since has achieved comparable results. Modern submarines are harder to detect and kill than World War II submarines, making such a killing spree unlikely to ever be repeated. England's achievement was the culmination of specific circumstances: Japanese submarines operating predictable routes, American intelligence providing general positions, excellent sonar conditions in tropical waters, a well-trained crew with superior equipment, and aggressive leadership willing to press attacks immediately upon contact. But circumstance alone does not explain England's success. Many ships had similar circumstances and achieved no kills. What distinguished England was excellence of execution. The crew performed flawlessly repeatedly under pressure. They demonstrated that destroyer escorts, despite being smaller and cheaper than fleet destroyers, were the most effective submarine hunters in the fleet. They vindicated American decisions to build hundreds of destroyer escorts rather than fewer fleet destroyers, and they proved that training and leadership mattered more than size or firepower when hunting submarines. The story of USS England is the story of a small ship that did one thing better than any ship in history. She hunted submarines. She found them. She killed them. 6 in 12 days. A record never equaled, an achievement that changed how navies thought about submarine warfare. A demonstration that excellence comes from training leadership and crews who trust their equipment and each other enough to perform perfectly when it matters most. Did you have a friend on the Good England 213 men served aboard her during that May 1944 patrol? They hunted submarines in tropical waters where Japanese boats had operated unmolested for years. They achieved something extraordinary through ordinary excellence, through doing their jobs perfectly, through drilling endlessly, until perfect execution became routine. They sunk 6 submarines in 12 days and changed naval warfare forever. The submarine hunter, the destroyer that set records, nobody has equaled the ship that demonstrated that small warships with well-trained crews could achieve what large warships could not. The USS England DE-635, the most lethal submarine killer in naval history.